Very pleasant good morning, everybody. Great to be with you. Today's Monday edition of Peel Yourself Off the Mat Monday edition of the Morning Briefing. I'm Jeff DeForest, and that celebrated young man over there is one Mike Lubie Lubitz, and we have reason to celebrate because if you're going to go south, if you're going to have all of your bets go up in smoke, and you only hit one thing, let it be a horse race where the winning horse is 10-1 or more. And that's what happened with the Preakness, because we did recommend an old theory. Yes, we recommended an old theory of mine, which has been bearing me my entire life. I would hate to see the amount of money I've lost to this theory because it's just pure, outright, and unadulterated laziness on my part in terms of handicapping. You buy the form, you pay the $12 for that, you're complaining about it, you're bitching and griping all the way to your spot, and you're thinking, my God, what happened to the racing form? It used to be 50 cents. And I just tend to throw all of those past performances out because I did not believe that Mystic Dan was going to win the Preakness. There was going to be some other horse, a new shooter, coming in there and possibly upset the apple cart. That happens a lot in the Preakness Stakes.
And did get second.
And sure enough, Seize the Gray wins, pays 20-something bucks, and I end up making a nice score on exactas, which were overly inflated, and the trifecta also paid way more than it should have with that configuration of odds. But if you are betting, people, if you are betting, we'll get to that because the rest of it was just a sea of embarrassing burials. If you are betting, Bet Online, your number one choice for all your summer sports this season from MLB, which has been very exciting. You can make a score there, although we got a little nervous about our Marlins underbet when they started shutting everybody out night after night after night. But they went back to their losing ways yesterday. Thank goodness for that.
You're fine.
Golf, if you had Xander Schauffele to win the PGA, how exciting was that 18th hole? You couldn't have had a better tournament. They're juxtaposing positions all the way underneath them, and he goes wire to wire and wins the thing like Reva Ridge. The NBA, NHL playoffs stats, they have it all there at Bet Online. All the latest stats, news, and scores available to follow your favorite teams. Get the latest odds and lines, including the latest team matchups, player props, and odds on just about every sport out there. They really do have it all. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to get in on all the action. Bet Online, where the game starts. All right, so let's start with that. Thank goodness I get out on Seize the Gray. That horse was not mentioned by any handicapper that we spoke with.
Because I saw that Seize the Gray won, and I didn't know where Mystic Dan finished, so I guess that's good because you always back Will the favorite. So that
second, yes,
that worked for you. But no one mentioned Seize the Gray.
Nobody, yeah,
that name never.
Didn't even know the horse was in the race. So that's the beauty of hitting this bet, where you just take all the other horses in the field and you take the favorite and you put him in second position, and that made some sense here because all the factors were considerably in favor of Mystic Dan running another big race, except for the fact that he just run 1.25 miles in the Kentucky Derby 2 weeks ago. And was he a super horse going into the Derby? He didn't go off at 18-1 because this was a horse a lot of people thought was going to be the next Secretariat.
Nope.
So unlikely that he was probably going to win the Triple Crown anyway. And if you were going to go against him and if you were going to take a position against the favorite, now was the time. And thank God that it worked. He barely hung on for second position there as Seize the Gray went wire to wire and won the thing in the mud. And so we made a score there. But everything else was a disaster, Lubie. So let's get into it. You had, we can go back to, now we were singing a song last week here on the show. I can see clearly now. I can admit now that I can't see shit. I thought, I mean, with a large degree of certainty that after, and tell me you didn't think the same thing, people, that Minnesota, after winning Game 5 and winning 3 in a row against the, rather Denver, after winning Game 5 and winning 3 in a row against the Minnesota Timberwolves, did you see any way that they lose the series in 7 games?
Even after they lost by 100 million.
Yeah.
Game 6. I'm like, yeah, whatever. And that's what's annoying about yesterday's game is that's what yesterday's game was. It literally made me feel confident. Like, see, I knew it. They could lose by 60 in Game 6. They're going to win this game going away. They were dominating in the first half. Into the third quarter, they were dominating.
20 in the third quarter.
It was so stupid. I don't know. Like, what the fuck?
Now, if you had the balls to just say, hey, you know what? I don't care that Denver's up 20 and it looks like Minnesota is crawling into the fetal position and going to be asleep in the corner of some doorway somewhere on a piece of cardboard, that these guys were just absolutely washed up. If you had the guts to go ahead and put money on Minnesota at that point, I would imagine you were handsomely rewarded. Maybe to the same tune that we were with Seize the Gray, because you would have had to say that 10-1 was even prohibitive. Now, a 20-point lead in the NBA is not what it used to be. Today's 20-point lead is yesterday's 9-point lead.
Yeah, yeah.
I didn't even say 10. It's less than half. It's unbelievable because the 3-point shot, they're coming down there and they're chucking three after three after three. And sure enough, you can make up a large deficit like that, but not the way that game was trending, Lubie. The way it was going, it looked like Jokic and company was going to redeem itself, and they were going to be going on to the NBA Finals. There, they were going to meet the Boston Celtics in all likelihood, and that was going to be it. But didn't turn out to be the case. So Minnesota, what chance do we give Minnesota of beating the Dallas Mavericks in the Western Conference Finals? You would have to think that they'd be favored over the Mavericks. And in all likelihood, have a strong possibility. I mean, when you put those 2 7-footers out there against the Mavericks lineup, and the Mavericks are trying to win it with Luka Doncic, who's been spectacular, and Kyrie Irving, who's been up and down, even though he's played well throughout. He hasn't necessarily been the dynamic scoring presence that you would need a secondary guy to be for the Dallas Mavericks to look like they should handle the Minnesota T-Wolves. You kind of froze up on me there, Lubie, so I hope you're still going. But nonetheless, that's where we stand with that. You are freezing up there, Lubie. You're intermittently going in and out, which is unfortunate.
It should have settled down by now. The T-Wolves play the kind of defense we thought the Thunder played. And again, I don't know what happened. That series went away from me because I thought the Mavs had no shot. I thought the Thunder would win that in like 5, maybe 6 games. The T-Wolves defense, we saw in the second half, the T-Wolves defense woke up and was fucking dominant. And I presume they're going to do something very similar to that versus the Mavs.
Mavs do a good job, though. I'm surprising some people. Handled OKC with relative ease in that series. If you can call a 1-point victory in Game 6 relative ease, but
well, and that call was weird. I didn't watch the game live, but I've seen that replay a bunch of times now.
Let's put a guy on a stripe on a 3-point shot at the end of the ball game to ice.
Well, it was a jack up three. It was like Luka lost the ball, he flung it to him. PJ Washington is not a 3-point shooter. He shot a horrible shot. Yeah, Gilgeous-Alexander should have just let him have it, and I don't know why he left his feet, but he did. But he controlled his body enough to actually block the ball. Like I was taught, if you block the ball, the hands are part of the ball. This Fakakta rule where, well, he didn't let go of the ball, so it can still be a foul. I'm like, well, then he should have let go of the fucking ball. That was dumb. He didn't let go of the ball. I don't know what the fuck to tell you. They blocked the shit out of it, and then he hits the arm. Once you block the ball, like that's all. How much do you want defenders to do? Like they can't leave their feet anymore because if you leave your feet, the guy's allowed to turn his butt and touch you, and that's a foul. Like now in midair, Gilgeous-Alexander had the presence of mind to hit the ball, hit it clean. He hit the ball clean, and then gets the arm after he hits the ball clean. And that's now a 3-point shooting foul to win a series. I don't know. I take umbrage with that call massively. And I know the rules explained it. It's like, come on, get the fuck out of here. No, I've never seen that call made there.
Usually if you get the ball first, the rest of the contact is permissible.
Yes.
Or considered to be more than justified. But this is the NBA today. Do you think at some point they need to actually rewrite the entire rule book from scratch?
Yes.
And make it clearly definable what the fuck it is that they're calling out there? It's unbelievable. All right, Pacers Knicks. You would have given a shot for the Pacers to win Game 6 and 7. However, after watching Game 5, that was the one that we buried you in when we suggested without qualification, under no condition should you do anything but bet the Pacers on the money line against the Knicks in Game 5. They just blown them off the court in Indianapolis, and you're thinking the Knicks don't have the firepower now. It finally is about to catch up with them. The compilation of injuries and the just conundrum of bad things that were happening to the New York Knicks with guys, major injuries out for the game, minor injuries. You saw Hart walking around like he got stabbed in the chest. Jalen Brunson ends up going out of Game 7 with a broken hand in the third quarter. The game was pretty much already decided, you would have to say, although we witnessed a 20-point comeback in the Minnesota game against the defending champion Denver Nuggets. That's the other thing that made it odd. This wasn't some scrub team you came back against. You were down 20 to the Atlanta Hawks in a regular season game. This was Game 7 on the Nuggets' home wood. Unbelievable. And the Timberwolves managed to come away with a victory. The Pacers, though, that was more believable that they were going to bounce back in that series. And sure enough, they did. They win Game 6 handily, and Game 7 was no contest at Madison Square Garden yesterday as the Garden faithful were out in force. And now the Indiana Pacers get the distinction of going on and facing the Boston Celtics in the Eastern Conference Finals. So do we dare venture an early prediction? I'm thinking the Celtics prevail in this series. So we'll put a kiss of death on them. And in Minnesota and Dallas, I have to come back to the Timberwolves. So we thought we're looking really sharp in the first series. Looked like they were dead in the water in series number 2. And they managed to work their way through it. Sometimes you're going to get a challenge like that. Think of the NCAA tournament. Almost every winning team, with the exception of UConn the last couple of years, has at least had a game where they had a scare placed into them. And that usually happens. So maybe that was something that will embolden Minnesota to go on and perhaps meet the Celtics in the final. NHL, we got our Panthers home, Lubie, against the Boston Bruins Friday night. It was a little bit dicey. Bruins take a 1-0 lead. Panthers find a way in a second period to tie it up and go on and win it with a third period goal. They win it 2-1. They take the series 4-2. They thwarted the comeback of the Boston Bruins, who were down 3-1. And in the other series, the Rangers had already prevailed and were awaiting the Panthers with the Stanley Cup Eastern Conference Finals not getting underway until Wednesday night. So still a couple of days to go. Two well-rested teams will meet each other. So you would have to think that bodes well for both clubs in terms of injury status and players being available. And fairly even matchup, although the Panthers, they met 3 times in a regular season. Lubie, Panthers 2-0-1 during the regular season. So what do you think? We had declared the Panthers as a team that was likely to win the Stanley Cup just a week or so ago, right here on this show. Are we going to look like fools again? Should I just go ahead and make another omelet and pour it over my head? What do you think?
I'm scared to say anything now because I thought the Nuggets and Celtics were a foregone conclusion, and the Nuggets would beat the Celtics easily. The Celtics will probably be there. The Nuggets won't. So I'm a little shaky in predictions. The fact that goal that the Panthers won on, I still don't know how it got in there. Swayman did literally anything. He had, it wasn't like with Bobrovsky where he like ducks down. It's like, here, go. He blocked the whole side. For some reason, there was I guess where his hip is, there was like a little bit of a space, and the puck magically found that space.
It was amazing. It was kind of like trying to knock over those metal pins at a carnival.
Yes.
Where, you could throw a bowling ball at them and they're still not going to budge. Those were the chances. That was, the odds of, those were the odds of that puck going in. I mean, the narrowest of openings there. And sure enough, turns out to be the series clinching goal for the Florida Panthers, who are playing well enough to make you believe that they're Stanley Cup material again. Kind of a toss-up here, and it's kind of a toss-up to people in South Florida because this is, in essence, New York South, where we originate from here on the show. So you would have to think that the arena will be filled with many blue shirts and Rangers jerseys when the Rangers are on the road. Does it constitute 7 home games possibly for the New York Rangers?
Look, the Panther faithful is pretty strong, and they've now been good for like 5 years. The crowd, I know you guys heard some Boston chants when I was watching them play Boston, and there's a good Boston contingent down here.
New York's another story, though.
They were strong. New York's a whole nother level. New York's going to.
I think they'll be selling knishes and bagels at the concession stands, which they could be doing anyway here.
It's going to be loud, and it's going to be a lot in New York, but I don't think it's going to be like New York advantage. I think it'll be a Panther advantage, and I hope they play good enough where it shuts the fuck up out of the Ranger faithful.
Is it true that Rudy Giuliani had a better chance of being reelected mayor of New York than the Knicks had of beating the Pacers in that game 7?
I don't know. Look, I mean, people kept getting hurt. I get it, and I love it. And Anunoby came back and Hurt played, but they were not healthy, and you could see it. And the Brunson injury, the game. I mean, look, the Knicks had made a run, and then the Pacers came back and made a run. The Pacers dropped by double digits in the fourth quarter when Brunson went out. Like, to me, the Pacers were going to win that game. I didn't see it that way. Once, even with injuries at home, the Garden was fucking insane. So I figured the young Pacers would wilt. I give them a lot of credit. Every time the Knicks had a charge, the Pacers were ready, and Halliburton played out of his fucking mind.
That is the weirdest looking 3-point shot I've seen. So weird. That's strange.
So like, it's almost like Marion.
You would think every coach this guy ever had would be trying to coach that out of him. Strange looking 3-point shot that Halliburton puts up there. Zayna Shoffley, I was surprised to see the popularity of Bryson DeChambeau. Weren't these guys viewed as traitor rats when they all defected for the Live Tour? DeChambeau wasn't particularly popular with people anyway until he ballooned up there on steroids and was hitting the ball 400 yards. And he didn't care if the woods happened to be an impediment to hitting the ball straight down the fairway. He would just, like a buzzsaw, cut the ball right through the trees. I mean, he was amazingly, massively strong. Now, all of a sudden, he's a shriveled up version of himself, although still in a very good physical condition, and he's mounting a charge there, chasing Xander Schauffele, who you would think would be a very sympathetic and a likable figure for the American golf fans that were on hand there in Louisville, Kentucky. And Schauffele hangs on. Got to give it to him. Shoots 5 under on the final round. Birdie's the last hole, which was a very birdieable hole there, a par 5 of a relatively short distance, easily navigable distance for the pro players. It's funny to see a guy hit driver 9-iron on a 600-yard hole and make the green. When did that happen? When did people start hitting their 8-iron 240 yards? But
I don't know.
Schauffele made a charge. He was chipping in from all over the place. I mean, rather DeChambeau, and Schauffele holds him off. There were a lot of people that were kind of nipping at the heels of Xander Schauffele. So good job there. Wins his first major. He had just choked in the stretch of the tournament the prior week when Rory McIlroy blew by him and was able to get a win. That fueled a lot of people's idea that McIlroy was ready to break this 10-year drought of not winning a major. The last major he won was 2014's PGA. And so that streak continued, even though McIlroy played a decent brand of golf. The putter, I think, really defied him. I think you could probably say that about most of those guys because I saw McIlroy missing a bunch of short putts. But congratulations, Xander Schauffele, a very popular win in the
thing
PGA
with
tournament.
DeChambeau, talk about bet online.
Yeah.
Schauffele's odds sucked in golf terms. He was one of the more favorite players. DeChambeau was not. DeChambeau's odds were like 33 to fucking 1.
Yeah.
So that's why people were rooting. No one all of a sudden loved.
I think it was all money that was bet on DeChambeau.
I think there was a lot of our buddy, the professor, he literally calls him the douchebag.
Yeah. He had DeChambeau.
He had Rose. He actually did really well, and all of his guys fucked him. He had Rose, Morikawa, both finished in the top 6.
Morikawa was tied for the lead after 3.
And had DeChambeau, and DeChambeau gave him the best odds.
Wow.
And he fell a fucking hole short. So, yeah, no one likes DeChambeau. They'll probably hate him more now. But he gave them a really good charge.
Raucous cheers. So I guess our buddy the professor was in the crowd, huh? Leading the way. A couple of baseball notes that Paul Skeens, the number 1 overall pick, Pittsburgh Pirates, came out of LSU. He throws a no-hitter for 6 innings, and they had to lift him because of the pitch count. But he's made 2 starts so far and been overwhelmingly impressive, throwing the ball 100 miles an hour on virtually every pitch. So he looks like, seldom do you see this where the baseball draft number 1 overall pick is a cinch to do well his very first year in the leagues, in the big leagues, especially if it's a hitter. But he looked like he was fully developed and ready to go when he was pitching in the College Baseball World Series, and he's acquitted himself by being every bit of the superstar so far that people anticipated he would be. And how about this? Yu Darvish now has thrown 25 consecutive scoreless innings. He's out there pitching for the Padres. He has like a 2.08 earned run average. This was a guy that you thought was washed up and back in Japan there. He wasn't pitching any more effectively than Hideki Arabu there for a while, but he's got his game working. And the 25 scoreless innings consecutively, holy Oral Hershiser, that is the longest streak of scoreless innings by a Japanese pitcher ever in Major League Baseball history. The only longer scoreless streak was accomplished by, and it's appropriate because this guy was a pitcher, except not pitching this year, Shohei Ohtani's interpreter was the only guy to go scoreless in more consecutive outings than Yu Darvish. All right, that's going to do it for us. A lot of fun. I mean, a great weekend and a lot of good stuff on tap, including Game 7 tonight. The Edmonton Oilers and the Vancouver Canucks. Lubie's pick to win the Stanley Cup. Vancouver, he's been touting them since midseason. And we'll see if they can make it to a Game 7. Oddly, the Oilers are favored. You have to lay 145 to win 100 on the Oilers on the road against the Vancouver Canucks, who have been in nothing but 1-goal games. So might be some tension there. And, of course, NBA action off the table for today. So you get a chance to rest your eyes and not be bellyaching about officials until the NBA Finals series get underway in both the Western and Eastern Conference. All right, for Mike Lubie, it's a lot of fun being with you. Peel yourself off the mat Monday. Hope you guys have a great day, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow. I'm Jeff DeForest. Thanks so much for tuning in to this morning's edition of the Morning Briefing.